All right, Happy New Year 2026, my first live stream of 2026. So we got Emily Lopez, my regular guest on Friday, and we got our two boots in the ground rockstar agent and investors in Pittsburgh. We got Jeremy Taggart and Liam. So morning, everyone.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
And I guess Liam is trying to let us know how cold it is in Pittsburgh today. And it looks like Andy, who's in Ohio, says, oh, 32 and cloudy, a little bit warmer there.
Yeah,
But
we got 28 and cloudy, which is a bit better than what we've been having. So,
all
with
right.
snow on the ground too.
And quickly, just want to say congrats. Jeremy had a baby boy in the past few weeks. So congratulations, kicking off the new year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so let's kick into, goal setting, how 2025 may have ended for you folks from the investing side, even the realtor side. But Emily, maybe you can kick it off first, how the year 2025 went for you.
Good. I think we've talked about this a little bit on some of the other things I've popped in on. So sorry to be a bit repetitive, but this was a year for me where I decided I've always grown really conservatively and cautiously, which I think is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think I've been a little maybe too conservative and cautious. So kind of was a transitioning phase in my mind, just that I was willing to have a couple of projects going at the same time and take on a little bit more risk than I have been able to, or I guess willing to in the past. And so I think 2025 was a transitioning year for me mentally, and I can be a little more aggressive moving forward. That kind of started at the end of this year and going forward. So I think it was a good shift for me mentally.
All right. And the two Pittsburgh fellas, how did 2025 end for you folks and your broker side, Jeremy?
Good. We hit 100 plus transactions, so that's kind of always been the baseline the past couple of years here. Now that we're at full steam on the sales side, so hit that again, which is cool. We'll probably just continue to keep trucking along with that and keep the transactions here. And then I didn't do as much on the investing side this year. I just did one bird deal, single family. The biggest thing was just I jumped more back into the sales side of things as far as working with clients, just because I knew it would be basically with the kid coming and everything. So did more than usual on that side of things as far as me doing the transactions and stuff. And then we bought a primary, so that helped contribute to the point where we could just we had a large enough down payment to just get the mortgage in my wife's name. So we kind of worked the system with that. We got a really low interest rate on it. So those were kind of the real estate things, but not too much else on the investing side outside of just refinancing some properties to get them on long-term loans and just stabilizing everything, and rented out my last house hacks. And now that property's fully rented, cash flowing now. So in a pretty good position with the portfolio, where I think going forward, I can focus on maybe just optimize, maybe selling some smaller ones, trading in the equity for bigger properties, but not really going crazy on the investing side like I did the first decade.
And Liam, for yourself, like we said, congrats to Jeremy for having a baby boy, but you look like you're going to be taking on a lot more in 2026, right? But how was 2025 for you?
It was a good year overall. There's I kind of see it as like a transition year. Like for me, like obviously we always have the sales stuff going on, but yeah, with Jeremy kind of, moving to the new house, first year of marriage, expecting to have a kid, we're kind of like preparing for that transition to happen toward a little bit more towards me and Logan to take on more responsibility. So we've been having a lot of talks about that. And then like in my personal portfolio and life in general, just like a transition year, like my first year of marriage as well, the honeymoon, in my investment side, it was kind of like the setup year. Like my wife asked me what my word for 2026 is going to be. I think it's going to be offense. Like I want to do more deals, like kind of how Emily said, like I want to go risk off in 2026. So 2025 was kind of like that setup year, like turning the ship around. Like end of 2023, I sold a 4 unit I had, kind of got myself into a stronger, like more robust cash position to do a nice big flip deal. And that led into, the end of 2025 where I closed on like 3 properties in the last month and a half or so that I'm going to be working on in early 2026. and from there, just hopefully just risk off, like kind of go on offense finally, which I've kind of been preparing for several years. So that's kind of the plan heading into this year now.
Funny you talked about the word for 2026, but Dion was joking about that on our live stream yesterday. He said 2025 was 6-7, and 2026 will be Leering.
Yes,
Leering Center.
Quality Leering Center.
Yes.
I need one of those hoodies. That is so funny.
But you also mentioned flip. I mean, I know we jinxed you, but so has your flip finished? Did you close on
It's
that?
closing next Friday.
Oh.
Fingers crossed.
Don't talk about it.
we won't bring
Fingers
it up.
crossed it's closing next Friday. But everything looks good right now. Like, it is what it is. So everything is looking good for it to close next Friday. What a whirlwind, though. I mean, crazy up and downs with that one. Jeremy knows all about it. I filled you in a little bit. But
That'll be a good one to deep dive on after it closes.
Yes,
the craziest
absolutely
transaction
learned.
I've ever been a part of in my life. It was unbelievable. But the property turned out really, really good. Like, I'm very happy with the product that we brought to the market, and it went well. Like, it's a great house. So, like, I talked to the buyer's agent yesterday. Everything's looking good. So ideally next Friday, we'll be closing that. And then I got to head down to Florida for a wedding. So.
All right, and just want to remind everyone that is maybe possibly interested in investing in Pittsburgh. Jeremy and Liam will also be in Vegas for the one rental at a time event joining us. And we'll probably set up some sort of meetup. So if people want to talk to them, learn more about the market. But Emily, for yourself, everyone's, like we've even had you on a few times and we're talking about 2026 goals and setting resolutions for the new year. But do you think it kind of fades pretty quickly for a lot of people? Once the calendar turns, you hit 2026, and after a few days, it's like resolutions are out the window already. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we see all the jokes, and everybody that goes to the gym makes the jokes, and right? People are always going to start something new and maybe not stick with it. I think it depends on your personality, because no matter what time of the year it is, some people decide I'm going to do this and they're going to do it regardless. And some people, they're just not going to stick with anything. So I think the important thing to remember is the new year, it's kind of exciting because it's a fresh time. But if you decide you want to change your life in March, change your life in March. If you decide you want to change your life in November, change your life in November. So like anytime you can say, or people are like, I'll start Monday, start Thursday, because then you have a head start on Monday. And so it's going to be what it's going to be. But if you decide you want to do something, who cares when it is? And it's your call, do it or don't.
What's your guys' thoughts on that? Like, Jeremy, do you set, I know, like even like you're into weightlifting, powerlifting type of stuff, right? Do you set a lot of goals on that side, and how hard is it to stick with the motivation for the whole year?
It's not hard for me because I have the habits in place that I've had for a very long time. I think that's the thing a lot of people kind of get flipped on, is they focus more on the goals rather than the daily habits you need to have to hit the goals. So instead of just focusing on the daily steps needed to eventually get to the goals rather than focusing on the end goal, basically. And then you do it enough times, especially at the beginning, to where it just becomes automatic. Like, it's not even at this point, it's just like, just go to the gym every morning, 4 or 5 days a week. But yeah, once you ingrain it as a habit, then it's really easy as far as getting motivated goes, which I think a lot of people don't get to the point where they do it long enough to hit that. So I think that's where you see a lot of people get screwed up, is they don't give it long enough. That you're going to go through kind of a slog period where you're building the habit, but once you go at that point, I think it has to be something you enjoy too, at least to a degree. Like, it's harder to build a habit on something if it's something you dread, basically. So when it comes to working out or even investing, figuring out things that you at least enjoy a little bit, it makes it a lot easier to build those automatic habits going forward. So that's how I at least.
Liam, what about yourself? Has Jeremy been a great example for yourself? I know you guys are joking about him working out with you and taking you under his wings, but even as a realtor, as an agent, right? So how has that been working under Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy is like the North Star for like a lot of things in my life because he does have all those habits built over like a decade, and you rely less on motivation if you already have the habits built into place. You don't have to motivate yourself to get up and go to the gym at 5:30 every day if you've done it for years and years and years. So yeah, I kind of he's a good example for me with that stuff. Like I've been trying to get up a little bit earlier. Like I mean, my wife has to go to clinicals at like 5 a.m. Most days. So like that's been out helping me actually because I'll get up at 4:30, drive her, and then go straight to the gym. So that we kind of got into that habit towards the end of 2025.
I like something like that you can associate with building the habit. It makes it a lot easier to build it when you have something that's
external almost.
Yeah. So that latching onto that, I think, is big for you if you want to build that habit for sure.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. And I've been enjoying that. So that's been going well. I've never, I'm good in the gym. It's just like, if you can go and be done by 7 a.m., that's just huge. But other stuff, I'm not huge on resolutions, but it is a good time of the year to like refocus on certain things. Like, what do I actually want to optimize? Like, I think this year as well, I want to kind of systematize a few things in the business. Like Jeremy and I kind of just go brute force with the whole sales thing. We just, grip it and rip it and try to get everybody serviced and it works. But especially with him having the kid and starting to step away from the team a little bit more, it might be a good time for Logan and I to try to systematize some things a little bit better. So kind of refocusing on things here and there, go on offense a little bit more with my personal portfolio, and then just make sure I'm kind of doing things day to day and week to week to make sure I'm like progressing in the right way.
And before we went live, I was talking with Emily. We were talking about her new YouTube channel because she already has a very successful one on the DIY side, but she does have a new YouTube channel. She's also streaming live there right now. So if you can jump over there, subscribe if you haven't. But this is her channel, and how you can also connect with Team Taggart. There's their Instagram page in the chat. But Emily, so is that something big on your plate for 2026, this new YouTube channel that you have going right now?
I would definitely like to try to grow it. I don't think I know. You can do all the research and do all the training on YouTube and try the best you can. But I feel like besides consistency, some of it is just luck. And so all I can continue to do is post consistently on both of the channels. I would really like to grow that channel, but it's been a long time since I've started a channel from zero. It's really it's a lot. And so I definitely want to grow it, but all I can do is be consistent and then kind of see what happens, because I don't know. I don't personally know what specifically you need to do besides be consistent to make it work.
Well, I would just say just keep doing what you're doing because your other channel is very successful. And like I said, every time I put your reels out there, you get so much pushback. So there's a lot of engagement always with your content, right? But Jeremy, like Harrison is saying here, where did he put? He did say smart move, Jeremy. Newborns take all of your free time plus some. So has that changed maybe or I'm sure you were planning already for 2026. You had a child on the way, but has it kind of set your vision plan for 2026 based around that?
Yeah, that's why I really wanted to focus on the whole bit of things out of the way. So it'll allow me to properly kind of be a good dad in terms of the next stage of life. I won't have to worry about that at the same time. That set things up and on that, so now I can fully focus on raising him and any more kids we have. So it'll allow me to kind of be in the position to do that, especially with like investing and the side of things. I can still continuing to build those because I'm not necessarily going to office. It's flexible enough to I build it up to the point where I can do both now at the same time the way I want to do it. So I've always had that in mind from the start. Kind of that's how I've always done everything, is just figure out the end goal, what position I want to be in, and then work backwards from it. So yeah, everything's kind of going with that type of stuff, and then successful kids.
So Liam, maybe you can tackle Flavio's question. So a lot of people in our community are investing out of state. A lot of people are investing in Pittsburgh, like myself from Hawaii, Mikey from Hawaii, some people from California looking at Pittsburgh, possibly Wyoming. Emily may be looking at Pittsburgh, but Flavio's asking, how does out-of-state investors handle frozen pipes?
Yep, that's a good question. So I think it's just preparation and good communication with your tenants and your property managers. So number one, making sure like your furnaces and stuff are just in good shape. If you need to service them, but make sure like the filters and stuff are new. You don't want them dying in the middle of winter. Also, like once temperatures drop to like below freezing, like 20s, teens, I always shoot a message out to my tenants to be like, hey, now that the temps are getting a little colder, if you're out of town for a night or two, make sure you're dripping the faucets, make sure the heat's cranked up, stuff like that. And then also, like right now, I'm leasing a vacant unit in Shadyside, and that owner's been really good. Like, hey, temps below like 20, can we get somebody over there, just make sure everything looks good, maybe drip the faucet for a night or two. So that might have to be done like, once or twice a week if it's really cold. So just staying top of mind, making sure the heat's on. He actually saw like a spike in his water bill, which is a good thing to do because you'll get the emails from the water company. Do you have like an abnormal spike in the amount of water usage? Get that checked out. Maybe have a plumber go check it out, see if there's a leak or a pipe burst or something. All that kind of stuff, but it can be mitigated for sure. So just good communication, staying on top of things more than you might have to throughout the rest of the year, and then just talking to tenants and making sure they're aware.
Great advice. Emily, do you want to add anything to that? Because I know you've had some content on your DIY side about how to handle these type of situations too, right?
I think exactly the same stuff that he was saying. We deal with frozen pipes. We deal with really cold winters a lot of times here in Wyoming. The only thing I would add is, gosh, I can't tell you how many times people forget to disconnect their hoses from the outside of the house. And so just always sending a reminder before that first freeze that everyone disconnects their hoses. I actually drive by all my rentals because you can see the front, but the backyard I can't always see from the road. And so just sending that reminder, because even if it says it's freezeless, that's when it's disconnected, and then that water has nowhere to go, freezes back into the line, and then it can bust a pipe inside your basement or wherever your plumbing is going. So that's the only thing I would add.
Anytime I think of when I was first starting in real estate investing, one of the local meetups with like real investors, and this one guy, he had a bunch of units. He was talking about how he deals with that. He goes, I just cut it off. They don't get a hose, so I don't have to worry about it.
But they'll still get their own hose. Even if you don't, they'll just go put one on there and then they leave it on there in the backyard.
No, they cut off the plumbing.
Gotcha.
To the point where even if they had a hose, they couldn't use it.
Okay, I gotcha. Yep.
On single family homes too. Yeah.
You can tell who's been around for a long time.
Was that the bigger pockets guy? I got one guy in mind who that might be, Jeremy. Okay.
No, I don't think you know him. This was the Beaver County acre meet 2 years out of college.
It just sounds like somebody.
He owns all the units and all have been like C-class area. So he said that was just his solution, was get a hose.
That's one way to do it.
I do want to clarify, Brady said burst pipe is probably the wrong word. It was a leak. So it does burst the pipe. So what happens is if it freezes and it can't drip out, it goes back into the pipe, especially if you have copper pipe. There's no flex like PEX. It actually expands inside the copper. It bursts, it splits the pipe on that pressurized line. So water's constantly coming out until you turn it off. So it is a split and a burst on the pipe.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you have vacant units, just turn the main valve off.
Yep.
You could still get burst pipes, and like when you turn it back on, you might have a leak. But at that point, if it does burst, you're not going to have continuous water dumping into the property. So make sure that main valve is turned off if it's a vacant unit.
Yep.
So if you want to see more content on this type of stuff, there's Emily's other YouTube channel, the DIY one. So you can check a lot of that content out there. But before maybe Emily tackles Trey Better 99's question, Flavio does have a question for you first. He says, Emily, how far is Gillette, Wyoming from you?
So I was born in Gillette, so I have a lot of family there. It's probably about 6 hours from me.
And then Harrison's asking, for 2026, how are you all going to minimize distractions and doom scrolling? So Emily, you can go first.
You just do it. If you decide you're what Yoda say, do or do not, there's no try. We can all sit and say, here's how I'm going to do it, or here's what I'm going to try. If you don't want to, just don't. Maybe set times for yourself. I can only check my phone at this time or on this break, or I have to do this much work before I check. You might have to create some sort of a guideline for yourself of, about how often you're going to allow yourself to be there or earn it. Like I have a friend, he runs a lot. He's always trained for some race, but he started heavily training again, probably for a really long ultra or something. And he has certain books or podcasts that he only lets himself listen to when he's running. And that helps him look forward to his workouts. And so something like that, maybe like, hey, if I do my workout, I can look, or if I finish this work task, I can look, or whatever you need to do to make it work for you.
Jeremy, what about you? Minimize. It's going to be hard with the newborn, but I mean, how do you minimize distractions and doom scrolling?
As far as social media goes, I turned off the notifications, like the push notifications. So that's helpful to the point where it's not proactively sending me stuff from social media to the point where I have to actually go on the apps to look at it. So I would say that's the biggest thing for me, addictive personality when it comes to social media anyhow. So not too big of an issue, but yeah, with anything that's a action or addicting, I think just out of mind is the approach I've always taken to avoid getting sucked into it and getting in the way of accomplishing the things I'm actually wanting to focus on.
What about you, Liam?
It's a good question. I haven't thought about it much, but I probably should. I like Jeremy's though. Just turn off notifications if you want to go on. Then you don't get the push to be like, oh, open something up and just scroll or whatever. I don't think I have too much.
Yeah, so if you open it up once, you'll naturally just get sucked into it.
Yep.
Much higher likelihood.
Yeah, I think that's a good, simple solution. Like if you don't have a major issue with it, then I think that's a good like mitigating factor or whatever.
We're talking about possible goals for 2026, and Emily has been talking about possibly investing out of state. I don't know if Flavio is asking you if it'll be hard or he's telling you it'll be hard for yourself. But he says it will be hard for yourself having a property out of state.
Yeah, that's why I'm on the fence. So that's why I had actually messaged, I think I had messaged Liam about doing a phone call. And then I was like, I don't want to waste this time yet because I'm not quite sure. So I'll probably talk to you a little bit more when we're all in Vegas, because I do want to figure out if I want to do, but it's scary. It's just, I'm a control freak. And so that's part of why I want to invest out of state, because then I can say, okay, I have things over here. I have a manager, but then it's scary if things aren't getting done, if things aren't being, I can't just step over there and step in. So that's why I want to do it. But that's also what holds me up and gives me some fear. So I'm interested in it, but I'm really scared.
Yeah. It takes time to like make that transition and like from a mindset standpoint, but it is a way to like force yourself to delegate, because you can't drive there and DIY something. And you can't like self-lease a property and stuff. So you are forcing yourself to delegate, kind of work on the business a little bit more. Yeah. But it does take a transitionary period to kind of like reframe your brain and be like, all right, I'm investing out of state now.
Yes.
We get that a lot from a lot of clients that reach out. I think a big piece of it is just having a good team. I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, and obviously you guys have that with the buying side, but I think I'm nervous about the management side. And then also if I do renovations, the construction side, like contractors and subcontractors, and just buying a property and me getting basically screwed by a contractor and then just having it sitting. And so that's scary.
Yep.
Well, so
I think it's,
go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say, it's kind of the same mindset as, say, if you own a business, hiring an employee, they're 100% of what you would.
For sure.
80%, if you can get the 80%, it'll increase the business to the point where in the long run, it ends up being better. Particularly if you're in like a market that's too expensive locally. So I think it's kind of getting in that frame of mind, which I've always had difficulty with that, or just in general, it's just tough to kind of flip it when you've always done everything, to then relying on other people, and especially like property management and stuff, because you have to just come to the realization that they're never going to do it as good as you would yourself. And for sure. So half of it is honestly just mental framework, basically.
For sure.
But I kind of think it's similar from that standpoint.
Yes, I think to Joe V's point, Emily, if Hold It with PM Gen was in Pittsburgh, I mean that it would alleviate a lot of Emily's fears, right?
For sure.
But Brady, so Brady is saying Wyoming is a big state. No need to leave the state to keep yourself separated from your rentals. So is that still too close for you? You think?
That's the thing is I'm not getting priced out of my market. There are at least still there's things that make sense as rentals and things that make sense as flips. But I think the conversation that me and my husband have had is I cannot remove myself. And there's not a property manager that I want to use here. And so I think if I want to invest and remove myself, I need to do it somewhere else. And so that's why I have started to look in other places. And then it's just kind of talking to people about if I'm going to do that, where the numbers make the most sense. I've not experienced property managers anywhere in Wyoming that no offense, maybe there's great ones that I'm like, oh, I want to use them. Like my mom has 2 properties in Casper, Wyoming, and that has not been a great experience either. So I wouldn't want to continue to buy more there because to my knowledge, there's not a property manager there that I really like. So I think that's the big thing is finding a place that has a manager that's what you want. But yeah, it's kind of forcing myself, like maybe I'll flip here and then I'll invest somewhere else. I'm not quite sure what it looks like yet.
Flavio is saying I can see Emily taking quick flights to go drive by the properties.
It doesn't help if I can't take my tools. That's the thing is I don't want to have to like load up a trailer and drive across the country to like renovate a house. So that's what I really want to avoid.
Your Ryobi tools?
No, right.
No, we're starting. That's a whole nother issue.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait. You want to chime in real quickly on that?
I don't know. I just got something against the Ryobi's. I bought a couple very early in my career, and they're all just not good. Like the battery life's not good. The power of the drills is not good. So my dad was a DeWalt guy, so I'm inherited the DeWalt kind of preference.
So Chris Webb is he's in Virginia. He's moving to Idaho, but he's saying 100%. I went to 3 property managers here in Lynchburg and hit the lottery in Tallahassee on my first one. So I think for a lot of people that is the most challenging part, right? Finding the property management that fits their personality, I guess. And yeah, I think even so stands, good property management are hard to find. That's kind of the break.
It's an issue countrywide because it's tough. It's a tough business.
Very tough business.
Tough low. I mean, we have a couple good ones that we refer and that we like, and we know that the communication is good because that's like the biggest thing, making sure people are communicating properly and everything. But it's tough business. There's not a lot of good ones in any given market, from my experience.
Yeah, it's just fine. To me, I think it's just challenging finding one that fits maybe your personality also,
exactly.
or opposite, right? Because Jen seems great, and I know a lot of people would work with her, but I also can see where some people may be turned off by that and may not want to work with her.
Yeah, so that's usually what I'll say is like we'll refer like our list of people, like it's like 2 to 3 contractors, 2 to 3 property managers. And then I tell people to have conversations with all of them, and then how they get you quotes, how they communicate during that process. And like, you can kind of gauge who you will like working with. Honestly, I wouldn't even focus as much on like a 9% versus 10% management rate. It's more so like what's their communication style and how do you like talking with them and working with them through that initial conversation and process. And then you can kind of gauge who would be the best fit for you.
Exactly. I think that's the one thing, right? And the new investors are always asking, what's going to be the property management rate? And they're always trying to look for the cheapest one, or can I get a discount? And to Jen, she charges 11% because she's like, my service, what I provide is worth it, right? So if I'm charging you 11 because I'm bringing your risk down, so you losing money is lowered, right? So that's the way she justifies it.
And there are some things I would happily pay more, like for that, an extra % or 2%, it's not going to matter. Same thing with hard money, to be honest. Like I'll pay slightly more on hard money as well. If I know they're going to be easy to work with, and easy to get draws with and stuff like that. So
Emily, Jack is saying when you come to Pittsburgh, you can borrow his truck and tools.
He says I'm going to want to. He didn't say I could.
Oh, Jack's a good guy. He'll let you borrow them.
He's teasing you.
No, that's the point. I don't want to do that. I don't want to buy something and make it harder for myself. So I got to really think about what is realistic for me and my personality.
In your current market, Emily, do you feel like you've hit a point where like you can't, it's not going to be beneficial to add more properties that you're going to have to DIY? Like, have you hit that breaking point already? Or are you just seeing that coming in the future, which is why you're kind of potentially looking to do another market?
No, so I think my market is good. And we have a big thing I'm noticing as I look in other places is we have low property taxes. So when I have to look at other areas, and not only am I looking at a manager, I'm looking at obviously commissions as well. Because when I buy and sell, since I'm a broker, you kind of get that little discount when you buy something or when you sell something. And then also, there was one other point I had, property taxes. Oh, and then paying a manager, right? So like, it's got to make enough more sense to invest somewhere else than here that I'm factoring in those things. So it makes sense to invest here. That our rental market is good and strong, but I'm kind of at the point, do I invest somewhere else and start involving a property manager now to remove myself from my new properties a little bit? Or do I just buy a ton here where it justifies hiring a statutory employee that, because I don't want to use a management company to kind of take over the phone calls and the dealing with the people and be the forward facing person. So I still can buy stuff here. It's just, would I be able to remove myself enough? Because I always say I would love if people just thought I was like the handyman. Like, I don't mind fixing stuff, but I don't like get the calls of please let me out of my lease or please, because I just do,
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's such a small town that everybody would always know I owned them. I couldn't just say like, oh, I'm not the owner. They'd be, yeah, you are. Why are you fixing the dishwasher? And so it's kind of, do I buy a bunch here and hire somebody, or do I start investing somewhere else? And I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah. There's definitely like a breaking point at some point where any additional units, you can only take on so much. I've actually been, I think on the last call we were on together, we were talking about how I self-manage mine. And I've actually, the past couple of weeks, I've been going through my brain of like, maybe I do want to bring on a manager sooner than I thought, because I mean, same as you, like there's some things I let slip, like, oh, I'm late 4 days on the rent. I'll waive the late fee or whatever. And also, if I want my business to progress in the way I do in 2026, does that person still self-manage their properties? I don't think so. So maybe I should bring it on earlier in the game so then I can refocus and the place I want to be in my business in a year or two, that person at the end of that is not still self-managing their properties. So maybe as like a setup to that. I don't know. I've been kind of changing my thinking on that the past couple of weeks, but we'll see where that goes.
It's an adjustment. It's definitely, and I think it's an adjustment when you kind of have that personality. Like some people will never self-manage from the beginning. They just know I'm not dealing with this. I can't, I won't, or I don't want to. But when you're kind of a self-starter and I kind of take care of everything, it's hard to, first of all, think of giving up the money for the management, of course, but releasing that it's not going to be exactly how you want to is hard.
Yep, I agree.
So Jay Molis is, I believe he's saying it'd be better hiring an employee. I believe
thinks it would be better maybe hiring an employee.
I think for you in your area, right?
I think that's what he's
saying. Stan, who's saying, hardest part about finding a good property manager that each seems to have one important facet that they underperform in. One might be great at maintenance, but they are too lenient on rent collection.
That's like home inspectors. I feel like they go through phases where I'm like, did they just teach this in the class, where they're like fixating on this one tiny stupid thing and they're all fixating on it. And then next year they're all fixating on this other dumb little thing. And it's like, why all of a sudden are you guys fixating on this thing that you've never mentioned before? And it's like, I don't know. Everyone kind of has their fixations.
So Brady is saying, Brady's saying, in my opinion, it's probably easier to hire and train than learn a whole new market and build a new team. Does that cross your mind, Emily?
Yeah, I think the attractive thing about Pittsburgh is because you guys have a team kind of set up there. So, I mean, besides, like you said, you have property managers you refer. It's not necessarily you guys.
Yeah.
But it seems like obviously Mark has done it and it has worked for him there. And I know you have friends that have as well. so you're picking a new market and the team's established. Here, I'm in a market I'm very familiar with, I'm very comfortable with, but the team is not established. And so I think it's just that decision. And so part of it is wanting to figure out what numbers realistically look like there to even figure out if it's worth me doing that, or I go, okay, no, that really hammers home that I should just stay where I'm at potentially.
Yep.
Yeah, I try to get more contractors on, but it's just they're so busy. Like Omar and Greg, it's hard to get them on. So I'll try and reach out to them again and see if they'll able
For
to
like
come on.
larger stuff or smaller stuff, Mark?
Just in general, so people can kind of get a feel for these people that we work with, right? So Omar's been on a few times, but I mean, it just seems like he's so busy right now, so it's hard to
Yeah.
get him on. And even Greg, Greg's doing a lot of work too, and I just saw he just picked up another flip, I believe, right? So it's hard to get them in one place at the same time, or one.
I've been using a company recently I really like for, it's more like handyman stuff, or the company is actually called Inspection Repairs of Pittsburgh. Like it's like, because a lot of contractors won't want to do the smaller maintenance items ongoing with rentals, or post inspection when you're buying something, the smaller stuff. Like it's hard to get Omar on site for that stuff because he's focused on bigger projects. But I've been using this one company a lot. You might want to maybe hook you up with him. He may be good to bring on.
Oh yeah, sure, man. And even like Jack, who's in the chat, he does some small projects for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Does work for them. So yeah, we do have a lot of people there. But there is a quick. So yeah, Jeremy had to bounce. Everyone, he had daddy daycare duties to take care of. But so Liam, self-managing or using property manager? You touched on that a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm still self-managing mine. I don't have a huge portfolio right now. I have I think back to like 7 units or something. A couple of those are flips too, but I'm still self-managing. Jeremy, so he's self-managed for a long, long time. I think until and also when he first started his career, a lot of the clients that he sold, he would take on management for them under Mace Property Management, who I think you work with, Mark. So he was under their umbrella, but he was a property manager for them, and he got up to like 90 something units that he was managing for himself and for clients. And then he stepped away from that. I mean, you learn a ton doing that a couple of years, like, oh my gosh. And that's really good experience to pass on to clients as well, managing that many units, and you just see everything. But with his personal portfolio, I think he just passed it off early 2025, I think, like January 2025. He passed his portfolio off to Mace. And I think that was his whole idea. Like once I get to 30, 35, 40 units, at that point, it's going to make sense to just pass it off to a manager. He was still self-managing below that though. But you get to that amount of scale and you're getting hit up every day for something. So it made sense for him at that point to pass it off. And that's kind of what I was thinking too. Like maybe I'll get to 20, 25, 30 units, and then it'll make sense to pass it off. I might make that switch sooner though. That's kind of what I've been thinking the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, that's kind of what I'm kind of self-managing part of my portfolio, but it's more just to learn and see if it's possible to do it from a distance. So if I ever needed to do it, but ultimately, I mean, I want to be completely hands off from it. I mean, that's, like you said, I mean, as well as you may manage it, there's always little things that pop up, and it's always the most inconvenient time, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, Emily, let's see. Jack is saying, she said, well, Emily mentioned hiring an employee to work with her rentals. Can Liam talk about the legitimate in our area?
Maybe like what's legal in your guys' area.
Can we have someone help manage someone's property that isn't the owner? If they work for the owner, looks like.
I think if you're self-managing, and you have like a 1099 worker or VA, I think that's fine. I think the legality of it is if I want to manage for someone, like I can't manage for someone else unless I'm licensed as a management company, because you can't collect rent funds unless you're under like a management company umbrella. But if you're just an individual and you want to bring on like a 1099 worker to help you with some of the management stuff, I think that's totally fine.
Can they be 1099 or do they have to be W-2? Does it have to be like a statute?
I think it can be either one. I
Okay.
think it can be either one. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it can be either one based on my experience with this other contractor that I helped manage some of his units for a while. I mean, I was 1099 with him, and I helped manage I think like 20 of his units at one point. So yeah, I think it's 1099. And he brought on, after I transitioned out of that, he brought on a VA to kind of fill the gaps.
So Emily, I'm not sure. So Marlon RE is saying, what percentage are you guys and gals paying your property managers? 10% standard. I self-manage in SoCal from Colorado. No problem.
10%.
That's what we
10% is what I
charged
hear. Yeah.
when we did property management.
I mean, maybe there's some outliers that charge a little bit less, but generally 10%, because sometimes they have some fees on top of that. Like if they
I
quote
think
you
that
8%. Yeah.
the fees are where they get you too, because a lot of people, they're going to charge 10% of the rent they collect, but they're going to do lease renewal fees.
Yep.
They schedule a repair because it's their time. They're going to charge a percentage of repairs they arrange, all that type of stuff. So it's not just 10%. There's going to be additional fees.
Correct. Yeah. Like lease renewal fee. I mean, there's like a tech fee on one, stuff like that. So it adds up. I mean, maybe the 8% one plus all the fees is more expensive than the 10% one. So don't forget to look at the fees.
Yeah, one thing I really hated, so I just, because this is the experience I do have with the property manager, is my mom's 2 properties in Casper, and I kind of stepped in this year to start helping with those. And I went to the house, and there were all these things that were kind of like half fixed and half not. And so we're paying a manager a fee on top of every repair to organize, to kind of contract that repair. And I would say make sure it gets done. And so there's all this unfinished stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, but the contractor didn't come back and finish it. Did you pay him? Yeah. Did you take your fee for the percentage on top? Yeah. So you didn't make sure he came back and finished this job, but you took your fee on top. So it's like we're paying them to be accountable that these projects are being finished and checking. And then this was before I was involved, so I'm kind of picking up and finding all this. But that's where some of them, maybe you want pictures. Now, if we schedule a photo before this final funds are released, because you guys clearly aren't doing your job.
Yep. I've had some clients tell me about situations like that before, which I would be so frustrated if that was the case.
Everything was like that. Like they finished a bathroom where they covered up a window, which is pretty common, but then they were supposed to finish it on the outside and match the siding. They just didn't. So there's just like plywood on the back of the house. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
So I think Jay is answering Yasek's question, but so Yasek is asking, can you manage everything else except collecting rent? And Jay Molis is saying, you can manage for someone as long as you don't handle the money. It can be an employee.
So check with your state, because even Jen was saying I was saying what our state allows, and then she was saying, no, you can do this, but not this. Like in where I'm at, to my knowledge, you can be a realtor. You can be an attorney, you can do property management, you can be a family member, or you can be a statutory employee. But I don't think I could 1099 somebody and have them manage my property unless maybe it was a realtor. But then that would be
I'll say, yeah, I was 1099, but I technically wasn't collecting the rent funds. I think that's the kind of nuance there, is like if they're collecting rent on your behalf, then there's some other stipulations there. But like if you have with me and this guy, he had a Buildium account and all the payments would go through there, but I had a login and I was seeing all the maintenance things and any rent delinquencies, and I would be following up with tenants. I would be delegating the maintenance tasks, but I wasn't collecting the funds. So it's probably going to be some setup like that, where it's like you have your management system and then you kind of plug them into that, rather than them like collecting funds on your behalf with their own management system, I guess you could say.
And if you think about like an apartment complex, when they have, somebody at a front desk or the property on-site manager, usually that's a W-2 employee. So they can collect, they can schedule things. Again, check your state, because we're all over the place on here.
Correct. Yeah.
Brady is saying, when I was in Texas, the PMs were in high competition, so rates were lower. Mine was 8%, and I saw some even 6 to 7%.
Was your service good that you got from your property manager? Because I would have people call me that would live in Utah and they would invest here when we did property management. and they'd say, you know, some people will do it for 8% because there's competition. And I'd be like, listen, dude, I don't even want to be doing this for 10%. I'm definitely not going to do it for 8%. If you can find somebody, please go there, you know, like, but I want to know, was the service good?
Yeah, I guess it depends on, like, you know, what are the rents in the area. If they're getting a percentage of the gross rents, like, or if it's a more affluent area where management tends to be much easier, then
Or
they could
rents are
easily
higher.
do it. Yeah, rents are higher. They're getting a higher, you know, net amount, and maybe management's easier as well. So they can still operate at 6 to 7% of gross rents and make a profit, and that's enough margin for them. I know in Pittsburgh, though, some of these areas tend to be more management intensive, and the prices are a lot lower. The rents are a lot lower, so they need a higher percentage to account for that and still have margin for the management company.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. As a property manager, you have to have a pretty big portfolio to be worth your time to be doing that.
Yeah.
Job. Money.
Yep.
It's a little bit of money over time, but you have to have so many units to have it be worth it.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword, because you want the smaller, like, more intimate, kind of dialed in management company, but then they might have the resources or the margins to, like, sustain the business, and then maybe you have to switch at some point. So it's, you know, they want to scale up to make the margins, but then they have a lot of units for one particular property manager, and then service drops off a cliff because of that. So it's a tough business. It's just a tough, low margin business.
Yeah.
So I've noticed the people who do it well make sure that the property managers they have for, you know, maybe one property manager, like, within each management company, has a set amount of units that they can reasonably manage. And if they're growing, they're making sure to add people on. Because we had a situation, we were referring one management company who was really good for a long time, and we were referring a lot of people to them. And then as they grew, they didn't bring more people on, and therefore service dropped off a cliff. So, you know, it's nuanced, but you just want to make sure you're working with somebody who's high integrity, good with communication, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Hyder is saying, exactly, Emily. I went and inspected work the PM managed and charged 20% for. Oh yeah, the outside of the replaced windows were not caulked and sealed to the building. Appeared okay on the inside. Yeah, I think you had a video on that, right, Hyder? Maybe with Millennial Mike. I think you did a walkthrough on that, or talking about it at some point. Flav,
I will generally say, if possible, I know some management companies lock you into a contract where they want to be responsible for all the repairs. I try to find my own people for those, to be honest. I think they're quicker. Like, the repair people and maintenance people in a management company, they probably have hundreds of units to service. I would rather get my own quotes, find my own handyman and contractors, and coordinate that myself, than maybe rely on theirs for certain things. If it's small stuff, that's totally fine. But if you're doing a unit turnover, like, you know, full cosmetic updates, I would probably, you know, go to one of my go-to contractors for something like that. They're just going to be a lot quicker. You'll probably find a better quote. That's my general thoughts. I haven't hired a property management company, so I don't know how those contracts look, if they lock you into using their particular maintenance people for everything. But I don't think Mace does. Like, you know, they'll quote you out, but if you want to use Omar or whatever to do a full unit turn, you can do that. And I think that's generally a way to go, in my opinion.
I think you want to make sure to read your contracts, because to what you're saying, one thing I found is most property management companies that I am familiar with have started their own handyman businesses or construction businesses. So even though it's in-house and it's the same owners, or it's like the owner's husband or wife or whatever, they're charging you a management fee over it and they're making that money. So sometimes I have found the numbers are not that great. And also they're charging a lot, but they're hiring some jackass who doesn't know how to do anything in construction. And so the work is not that quality.
Yeah.
And so really read through there and make sure you understand and you're getting documentation, because, and I get it, they have to make money. So it's another way to make income on your property.
It's another arm of the management company. If that's the repair business too, it's another way to kind of seamlessly work on those and make margin on each unit.
And it can be great, but you need to be careful.
Correct. Yep. I would just think about that a little bit. Some people think they have to use the management company for everything. It's not the case, though. You might want to, find your own handyman to do a couple things here and there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to how urgent the work needs to be done
Definitely.
too, right?
Yep.
So sometimes some things just has to be taken care of right away. So
Yeah. And
unfortunately,
some
that's
management companies
yeah.
are trustworthy enough and their guys are good to the point where it's fine.
So Flavio's asking, Emily, is any room for new investors in your area? I mean, for some people in school, it's hard to invest in their area. So what would you say about the Wyoming market or
Yeah,
your area?
we actually have, when we used to do property management, we would have a lot of out of state investors here because investments make sense here. The hardest thing is you have very few management options. And I feel like contractors here or handymen or whoever's going to be doing the work, the decent people are word of mouth. And so the people that you're going to find online that are going to go quickly are going to be the people that are going quickly because they're available to go quickly because everyone here knows not to use them. And that can mean like there's certain people in town who they way overcharge for things, but they'll show up right away. But that's because they're not on other jobs but they have a big online presence. And so that would be my only thing is, yes, it makes sense here, but finding the help is like more word of mouth than it's ever going to be advertised online anywhere.
So I think Charles is saying, I would think it would be easier to build a team at my home versus from afar, but it could be my control issues.
I just think I know myself and I don't know if it's here if I'll remove myself. And so I have to be honest. Or it's like, does this become my home base? And then like, I just go somewhere else. I build it all here and then it's like, okay, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I always tell people. It's really just, you got to know yourself, right? There's just some things, like some people just can't self-manage, right? That's just, they like I said, collecting rent or enforcing what the lease says. I mean, it's just a challenge for them, right? So some people just cannot do that, or that's not their strength. Maybe they can learn, but it just may not be their strength though, right?
Well, and I think it's so hard because as a person, everybody's different. But like when Liam was talking about somebody paying late, so many of my renters pay late, but I kind of know the people that are going to pay late, and I would never let it go into a next month because once you're 1 month behind, you're never going to get a second.
So true. Yeah, that's an issue. Once it starts compounding on itself, that's a real issue. But if they're like a couple days late, I'm too lenient on that. And they're like, oh, I'm getting paid. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Because I'm going to pay, and it personally, you get frustrated because you're like, my mortgage was due on the 1st, whether you paid or not. But even if they pay on the 1st with the payment processing software, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And so if they pay every month, and where it gets you is, that last month, this is what always happens. I have people that pay super late. Like I have one tenant, they always pay so late that by the time it clears into my account, because they pay it on my software, it's the next month. But they always pay. They've never not paid. But what happens is I have a lot of people do that. And then that last month, they don't pay the last month's rent. And then they trash the house. So you don't even get the last month's rent. And then the deposit doesn't even come close to covering the damage. So that's where it gets you, is they always kind of screw you on the last month. But I mean, ultimately, if someone pays me on the 4th or the 5th, does it really matter? To me, it doesn't. I don't know.
I agree. Yeah. I've been through a few situations where it's like I've been too lenient on something. It's burned me though. So now I'm kind of going back to like, you kind of have to be somewhat cold in this business a little bit. Like what is that? Like you give them an inch, they'll take a mile type thing.
That's where it's hard.
Yeah. So I've kind of, especially, a couple deals that I've worked on recently too. But you kind of got to just read the contract, go by the contract, or the lease or whatever. That's kind of just the way to go. So I'm working on that, or I'll just pass off management, to be honest. We'll see what happens.
It's hard because I feel like even in the comments you said it, and then I think Brady said it, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So you feel like, or I feel like I'm being a decent human being, and then they're like, oh, I can really take advantage. She didn't care if I paid on the 3rd, so now I'm going to pay on the 5th, or now I'm going to pay on the 7th. What I try to do when I place a tenant is ask them rent. And I've started to do this. We do assess late fees just to keep things in line and understand that we're all on the same page.
Yep.
You get paid on a certain day of the month. Do you need for your due date to be on the 5th instead of the 1st? And then instead of mine are your rent's due on the 1st. Well, I inherited 4 tenants in a 4-plex, but the way I set it up, if I do the leases originally, is rent's due on the 1st. You have a grace period till the 5th. Then you have a $25 late fee. And then after that, it's $5 every day. if you ask me when you sign your lease or you change jobs and you say, I don't get paid till the 5th, can my rent be due on the 5th with grace period till the 9th or something like that? Because if the 5th is on a Friday, maybe I don't get it until whatever day, it's in the contract. We've all agreed to it. I just don't like this willy-nilly, we can just do whatever we want thing. So I always ask them. So it's annoying when somebody says, no, the 1st is fine. And then they're like, can I pay on the 10th because I didn't get paid? And it's like, I gave you the chance to have your due date be a different day. So it's just trying to keep it in line, but be a human. And it's hard to balance.
Yep.
So Brady follows up with saying, people learn that you're flexible and you will be the last one they pay each month.
It's true.
Yeah, because you know what? Their fancy ass car in the driveway that the payment is probably as much as the rent is. They're gonna come take that if you don't pay it. But it's got to be a while before I kick you out. So they know that. So yeah, it's hard to find a balance between being a human and understanding that things are hard for people, especially now, and then allowing an environment where you're taken advantage of.
All right, I can see that reel coming out and you getting pushed back on down already.
I'll back you up.
Thank you. Gosh, everybody hates me on Mark's Instagram.
You're spot on though.
They always put. What was the one? Maybe. Oh, so Liam's a realtor. Right? What were you saying on that reel I put about the 9%, right? And someone was the person was pushing back on you.
I don't know.
Somebody. It was me. It was something I said. Somebody told me, like an associate broker that I know, that she was talking to somebody and they were saying in this area they charge 9%. And so I was saying 9%
for commissions.
Yes.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I was saying, if that's even true, because a lot of the public thinks realtors do this, realtors do that. They don't even know. Right. And so if that's true, I was just saying, I, as a consumer, would never pay that. That's insane. And I just don't think that's reasonable. And I was even saying, depending on the price point of the house, there's times where, like, if the house is really expensive, maybe you'll negotiate. But if the house is a really low cost, you might want a flat fee because, like if you're selling a $50,000 house, the percentage is very low, right? So you might negotiate a flat fee or
those
something.
deals are often harder to work on too. The cheaper deals are actually more work on account of the realtor. That's how we structure it though. We have a percentage, but then we have a minimum as well. Yeah.
And so that's what we were saying. And then this guy starts talking about this is why people hate realtors. And he was saying,
oh yeah, it's a hot topic.
I charge this.
But people are very fired up about that. Yeah. And
at the end of the day, the numbers he was saying, it was the same thing I was saying, but he didn't understand in his small brain, I guess, that we were on the same page. He was just so mad. And so if you're reading what he's saying, we're literally on the same side of the argument, but he's angry and he doesn't get it. And he's like spewing rage. And I'm like, bro, we're on the same side, but he's pissed and doesn't get that.
I see a ton of correspondence about the commission structure, especially since the NAR changes and the NAR lawsuit. People are very fired up about it. I think it's nuanced though. I think what market are you in? What type of property are you selling or buying? It's more nuanced than one umbrella kind of solution. So it really depends. I mean, if you're a seller or buyer, you should be doing due diligence about, what is this agent actually providing me with? What is their experience and stuff? Are they well suited to work on this type of property? So it's more nuanced in my opinion, but it's a fiery topic for sure. So I'm not surprised somebody got worked up in the comments about it.
So Gus, who is a realtor investor also, and Emily just interviewed Gus for her channel. So go check that out if you want to know more about Gus's story. But he is saying, I hate chasing for rents, but blessed if it comes in at the 8 until we do the whole process again the following month.
That's right.
Hey, Janitor on Fire's here. His Cowboys, I think, are out of the playoff or don't have the playoff potential. But Flavio, I don't know if you can answer this, Emily. He's just saying, can you share what place will be an area to invest? It's okay if you don't want to share your secret spot, but you just want to compare his numbers. So Flavio's in Grandview, Washington. I think he feels he's being priced out there. But is there maybe a secret spot in Wyoming, Emily?
I don't think there's a secret spot. I think you kind of I think things are, so I know my market, honestly. I don't want to say, like, my market makes sense. I think Laramie, which is where the University of Wyoming is, it makes sense, but it's probably harder to get into. And so do you want to deal with student housing? When I was in college, there were people that just wouldn't rent to students. and they're allowed to because students are a protected class. You can say I don't rent to students because they didn't want their houses trashed. But that's the majority of the market. So Laramie has gotten really expensive, but I have had some clients move there and they've done new construction. So if you're willing to wait for it, maybe you can get in, but the bidding is crazy. Or if you have a good realtor there, maybe they can bring you properties before they hit the market. So I think that market is always going to stay steady and grow. It's growing like crazy. Cheyenne is our capital, and so it's getting really expensive. So I don't know if you can get your hands on something there that makes sense to buy. I don't know pricing wise. I'm not invested there. I'm in Rock Springs, and it still makes sense to buy here. Our economy stays pretty steady. We have a lot of industry. So we have coal mines, we have trona mines. When natural gas is doing well, when coal's doing well, that ebbs and flows, but the market stays steady. So like I have properties that, depending on who's in the administration, oil and gas has more or less support and things pick up and go back down. They always rent, but maybe there's like a gap between, like, sometimes they rent for $12.50, sometimes they rent for $16.50. So you make sure you run your numbers at that $12.50 mark, because that's like the lowest they'll go. And that's really low. I mean, that's conservative, but then they still make sense. So here it's good. We have a hospital, we have a community college, we have teachers get pretty decent pay in Wyoming compared to the rest of the state or the United States. And then here is better than the rest of the state. So a lot of teachers come here and then they leave because there's a lot of hate of the HR department here and the way it's ran. So people are constantly, I buy and sell houses, or as a realtor, I have people buy and sell with me every year that are coming and going to be teachers, and then they hate it and they go somewhere with less pay just to get out of our district. And so those people rent sometimes too. So rents do well here. You can buy in cash flow, but the other areas I'm not as familiar with.
Janitor on Fire. So a lot of people in our community that follow Dion probably know what he's talking about. But Dion says he promises to do an eviction notice once they're late, and that way it's to help the tenants be able to qualify if they need to look for assistance. So he starts that process just so if there's any reason the tenant has this notice that they can say,
for eviction for non-payment.
So that way the tenant can seek assistance if necessary, but he starts the process early.
Yeah. When I was working for that one contractor I was managing for, he would send out 10-day notices, which is essentially just like notice to pay rent or vacate pretty soon after they're late, maybe the 10th, 12th, 15th. And that does two things. It kind of lights a fire under their ass to get the payment in, because the 10-day notice went out, which is the prerequisite for actually being able to file the eviction. So once that 10-day notice goes out, it starts the clock and is required for you to eventually actually file eviction if you need to. There's some leases where actually that's waived, like you don't have to file 10-day notice, but it's still a good like mechanism to use to really kind of get them to pay rent. And then that's there if you do need to go, in a couple weeks later, actually file for eviction. So that can be a good, if you have a tenant who's consistently late, or it is backed up like a month or two, that's a good thing to use. 10-day notice of non-payment, notice to pay or vacate or whatever.
I just want to say a happy new year to Hold It With PM Jen, who's tuning in on Instagram. But if everyone doesn't know who that is, I definitely go check her out. Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube channel, but she is a wealth of knowledge on the property management side.
Don't make me feel bad about the property manager you do have.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, if there was a Jen in your area, I'm sure you'd probably be working with her, right? But let's see. There was Emily, you're in Rock Springs. You ever go to Cowboy Donuts? Owners are family friends from when I grew up in Texas. You ever heard of that place, Emily?
Yeah. So my husband has a food truck, and he parks a lot of times in the Sportsman's Warehouse parking lot, which is near Cowboy Donuts. So at the end of the day, when when they've sold, what they need to sell, and I think they have their leftover donuts because they make them fresh every day, she'll just drop a box of them off over at the food truck if she just wants to close, and then we'll give them to customers. And she takes them to the soup kitchen too when she has some left over. So we know them. I mean, not well, like I don't know their names. It's just kind of one of those, we see these people all the time type of things.
But since we're talking about that real quick, let's just pivot real fast since you're bringing up the food truck. And before we hopped on, Liam was talking about Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills, and you do have some ties there with Josh Allen, correct?
So I don't know if Josh Allen went to the University of Wyoming, which my husband has a chicken wing food truck, but his best friend started the original, or one of his best friends started the original one in Laramie, which is where the University of Wyoming was or is. And so Josh ate at the food truck when he was in college. And so for years, we tried to get into the National Buffalo Wing Festival, but they would never let us in because we were a food truck. We weren't a
I'm loving this story already. This is great.
And so the owner was like, yeah, we can't let you in every year. Yeah, we can't let you in. You're a food truck. And like our recipes are really, really good. I don't eat chicken, and I just put them on French fries and stuff. Like the sauces are so good. And so we finally, one year when Josh got sent to Buffalo, and Buffalo loves Josh. Like I don't live in a big city, but to see that love of a celebrity is crazy. It is so weird to me. And like, there's like Josh Allen cereal. You walk through the Wegmans, like the grocery stores there, which if you don't know about Wegmans, you guys, oh my God.
It's the best place ever. We're getting one in Pittsburgh soon.
You are?
Oh yeah.
That makes me want to invest there. And
I used to go there with my grandma when I was growing up. It's like my favorite place on earth. When we get
I
Wegmans,
love
I'm
a good
psyched.
grocery store. Oh my goodness.
I know.
And so
They have the buffalo wing. I think it's Josh Allen buffalo wing sauce, which is I'm a big fan of. Yeah.
So basically we said, okay, well, if you could get Josh to like vouch for us and just say we're really good, or if I think the owner said if he'll vouch for you because everyone loves him, we'll let you in. So Josh called the owner of the guy that runs the buffalo wing contest every year, and he said they're my favorite wings. Let them in. They're really good. Like you're not gonna just let this company in and they're gonna suck. So they let us in. And we've gone back and won like 22 awards. We've won it like 4 years in a row. And so, but the only reason we got in is because he vouched for us. And I think every year until the last year, like the first year we had it in the baseball stadium, and then it was at Highmark, and then it went back to the baseball stadium because they're building the new one. And Josh would come like to the back and we'd run wings out to his truck. Cause the first year he actually came and he was famous, but he could sneak in. And now we just have to run him to his car. And I don't think last year he went, but his favorite are the spicy blue. And he's the whole reason that we were able to get into the festival and get that exposure. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm from like an hour south of Buffalo, but it's like a really small town. So like Buffalo is like the closest metropolitan area.
Yeah.
But we're big Bills country there through and through. And buffalo wings is like the thing. I've dialed down a few spots in Pittsburgh that are acceptable, but nothing's like a wing in Buffalo.
There's a lot of bad wing places in the world in general.
I know it throws me off when I go places. It's like I'm spoiled. But we were in Buffalo a month ago or something. We went to this place called what was it? Something Barbell Tavern. Oh my God, these wings were life-changing. They were so good. And also beef on weck is like a regional thing in Western New York. If you guys have not had a beef on weck, it's unbelievable. So good. But yeah, this is like I could talk about buffalo wings for hours.
I love Buffalo. I really enjoy Buffalo.
Great real estate market too nowadays.
So I did put the Double Dubs Instagram page in the chat, so that's where you can follow the food truck and actually see them. It says "Go Bills." They're actually tuning in on Instagram right now. Double Dubs.
Nice.
Emily.
So that's my husband. So if you have real estate questions, he doesn't care about real estate.
But
so
if you want to talk about buffalo wings,
if you have buffalo wing questions, message my husband Dallas.
I love it.
Jen on Instagram is saying Wegmans is life. Emily.
Oh, you guys,
Best.
Wegmans. And you know what? It's this wonderful grocery store. They have so many like pre-made things. They have sandwiches and pizza and sushi, but it's good. They have pre-made things. They have a bakery. I mean, this place is magical. But the thing about Wegmans is their employees like working there. Like they have really good employees.
Nicest people you'll ever meet. Yeah.
Some of those people work there they have full careers there because they actually pay their employees. And I mean, it is just, Wegmans is a beautiful thing.
Yes,
like
it is.
Buc-ee's.
I'm so excited to get one. Yeah, better than Buc-ee's.
No.
The hype is
Buc-ee's a
justified
gas
around
station?
Wegmans. I don't get the hype around Buc-ee's.
Oh, come on.
Gas station?
Somebody's saying they do want the blue cheese though. Yeah, Jovi is saying the blue cheese that Emily's been talking about.
So we could probably ship it to you. Maybe in winter, like the sauce, again, we've talked about this. The sauces are fine because they're a high vinegar content, most of them, but blue cheese, and we can cold ship them, but it just depends on how long it would take to get where you're at. I just don't know what the blue cheese, because it's dairy, a little bit.
Yes, I've been trying to get them to bring the wings to Vegas, but I don't think they'll be able to,
What's
Flavio.
a malasada?
A Portuguese like donut.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's like a donut type of thing with sugar on top, and yeah, Flavia wants me to bring it from Hawaii, but it'll be soggy by then. Just letting you know, where did it go? I see Hard Hat Toronto's talking about Brandon's B2R. Yes, but the only thing though, so if just letting everyone know, Brandon has changed the name of his YouTube channel. He thought that Build to Rent wasn't um people didn't know what that meant, so he changed it to Build Wealth Building Flow, I believe, is the new name for his YouTube channel. But Brandon will be speaking in Vegas on day 2 on Build to Rent, though, on his method. Jen is asking who is going to the ORAT event in Vegas.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Me, Jeremy, and Alex are coming from Pittsburgh.
Yes,
And maybe Ian. Not sure
Me-
about Ian yet.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of the Pittsburgh boots on the ground will be in Vegas. So if people want to know more, like I said, I'm going to probably piggyback on Brandon's morning coffee on Friday. So we'll set something up with that. So people want to know more about the Pittsburgh market. Hopefully that means Jen may be joining us also in Vegas, and that's why she's asking. Hey, I see Aaron Foster tuning in. He's one of the founders of First Responder Financial Freedom. So go check out that YouTube channel also. But I did put Jen's YouTube channel also too. So if you want to know more about property management and things like that, go check out her YouTube channel. And like I said, Gus was interviewed on Emily's channel recently. So also go check that out over there. But let's maybe wrap it up with, I know we were talking about, the calendar years flipping from 2025 to 2026. So maybe let's just pivot back to one final question there. Let's see. Oh, do you think people confuse being busy in January with being effective?
I think that's a whole life thing. You think you're busy and then you realize, and that's a problem for me sometimes. I'm not necessarily an efficient worker. And so sometimes I'll be like, I was running around all day and I got so little done. And so I think that's something I really have to check myself on, is having a system where I'm working more efficiently.
I agree. I mean, it's easy for us in sales to just be on the go, nonstop. But what I'm gonna try to work on is working on the business and not just purely in the business day to day. So I can be somewhat more effective if I am working on it along with in it at the same time. So I think that kind of goes along with the sentiment of what you're asking.
All right, everyone, go subscribe to Jen's YouTube channel and tell her that she needs to be in Vegas. She said she is thinking about it. Link
I'm
it
excited.
here. Oh, I think that's talking about Brady's channel, maybe. Oh, Hugo's here. Hugo's gonna be in Vegas, he said. But yeah, anything else you guys wanna wrap? Any questions for Liam, Emily? Since I know, like I said, maybe Pittsburgh's on your list of places you're looking at.
Yeah, I do. So what would you say, and I know this is a loaded question, and so it's kind of two parts. First part is, are people investing, or when you're investing or working with investors, that was a lot, are people doing mostly multifamily? Like I see when we do the calls, there's a lot of little triplexes and stuff, or single family. What's making sense there right now? And what's a reasonable expectation of, okay, if I spend, like, you can get a decent house for 200, or you can get a decent house for 150 or 250 and expect to cash flow blank per month after you pay a property manager? Or is that like too loaded of a question?
I would say, so generally speaking, I would say $100 to $200 per unit net.
Okay.
I would say that Pittsburgh, you can find whatever strategy you want to implement in Pittsburgh. There's a section of the city it'll work for, whether it's single family burrs, 2 to 4 unit, just, buying cash flow, flips, short-term rentals, mid-term rentals. Like, you can implement any strategy here, which is nice. If you want to focus on appreciation, you could do that, less so cash flow. We do a lot of the 2 to 4 units because there's a good amount of supply and inventory for those. Some 5 to 10 to 20 unit deals, we see them, but not super often. But I would say $100 to $200 net if you're just looking for like a cash flow, like good 1% plus deal to buy in cash flow. And then if you're doing like a BRRRR, you can usually get properties pretty cheap, 50 to 70 to 100,000. Put some rehab into it. And if you're ending up with, you can usually pull all your money out. The full BRRRR cycle is a little bit harder now with rates being higher the past couple of years. They're coming down now. Lending, like the underwriting process is a little bit easier, so you can usually still pull all your money out. At worst case, maybe you're leaving a couple grand in the deal,
Sure.
but still having a fully renovated cash flowing property at the end of it, which I've done a couple of those. Those are good deals still. From a flip standpoint, net profit pre-tax, like if you're making like 50K, that's a good deal. There's some outliers where you could make more than that, and some that are like, if it's a seamless flip that's going to in a good area that's going to sell quickly, like I would do one for 25, 30K profit as well. So I would say like 50K is that like really good flip profit, $100 to $200 a month per unit and net cash flow. And then BRRRRs, you can still most of the time get all your money out on the back end on refi, maybe leaving a couple grand in the deal with rates a little bit higher than they were a couple of years ago. So I think that covers most of them. But again, you can implement any particular investing strategy in Pittsburgh, which is one of the reasons we like it here.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. I think that was a great episode. A lot of good information. Emily, Liam, thanks for always doing this.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was fun.
I will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific with Coach Nick, Lead Prehado, for our weekly Bitcoin wrap-up, kicking off our first one for 2026. And like I mentioned, all of us here will be in Vegas for the ORAD event. If you haven't got your tickets, I believe Zuber said January 15th. He's going to be stopping ticket sales so you can get the head count for food and everything. And like I said, Liam, Jeremy, and Alex will all be in Vegas to take in all the fun, the events, but also talk to people that want to know more about the Pittsburgh market and everything. But you folks, thanks for doing this and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, guys.